Tell me about how you guys first met.
We met significantly only 2 years ago, although we'd worked together a little bit. But, you know, he brought a song to me called Don't Make Me Wait. And I sang on it. I smelled a hit. I still have that.
You have a good nose for that still?
Still have a nose for it. And I said, yeah, I'd love to sing on it. We enjoyed working together. And then just from that relationship, that enjoyment, we were in the studio together, just having fun, messing around.
You had crossed paths before in an insignificant
We had.
way?
Yeah.
Just in the indie industry over the years, you know, I've seen him, you know, and I jumped. We're in Antwerp. I was doing like something called Night of the Proms with me and James Brown and Cyndi Lauper and Pointed Sister, a whole bunch of us, and we were there for like a month. We were doing 6 shows a night. 6 shows a week. Yeah. 6 shows a week.
6 shows a night.
That's like the old
Beatles.
the
hardest way to manage show business.
That's the old Beatles and Hamburger schedule. That's what that is.
We do 6 shows a week, and one of the nights we had to break because he was coming to town and he needed the Coliseum.
Oh. Yes, and, I needed my venue back.
Yeah, and so I ended up jumping on stage on Roxanne.
Uninvited.
Yeah, I couldn't help myself, and you know, but you know, we got connected. We have a mutual friend in common, and Martin Kierszenbaum, who was my A&R at Geffen Interscope, and
he's my manager.
His current manager now.
He had an intuition that Shaggy and I would get on, and when we actually did meet, really, we recognized kindred spirits. You know, we really did get on. We liked each other's company. And then singing together, it's, you know, on paper it seems an odd combination that our voices would blend, but they do, and they complement each other.
They complement each other amazingly, actually. It doesn't, when I heard about the collaboration, it didn't seem like a surprise to me. It said you both, in a way, are roots artists, and it just sort of seemed like, oh yeah, this is cool.
Well, that was the common ground. That, you know, reggae was something that we both were familiar with, and he's obviously an iconic reggae artist. I've dabbled.
Or dibbled.
I've never dibbled. I've only dabbled. But that was the common ground at the beginning. But then we didn't make a reggae album. It's a pop record. You know, it's lots of different.
Yeah, it's a hybrid. It's a hybrid. And if you look at the history of all the music that I've made and music, you know, I was criticized when I started doing From Old Caroline and all those records all the way up.
They criticized you?
They criticized me. The purists.
Shame.
The purists went at me about it. But I never intended to make purist music, you know what I mean? Because to me, I don't think I could have topped what my predecessors have done. You know, how am I going to top what Bob Marley and Peter Tosh and you know, Bunny Wailer, Dennis Brown, Gregory Isaac, those guys are who I looked up to. Those guys are legends in what they did. I had to find my own niche, my own voice, my own voice. And I think Sting did the same thing. You know, the Police earlier songs were like the gateway for a lot of reggae music, reggae artists, because they weren't getting on mainstream radio.
That's true.
And you know, the hybrid style of reggae that he was doing was getting. The Police was getting on radio, so it was opening the door to the genre. You know, even though the gatekeepers were like, "Well, it doesn't fit our format." You know, it's like, "Yeah, but you playing these guys."
Right.
You know what I mean? So we appreciated that. You know what I mean? And that's why the early Police music was played in Jamaica. When I was younger, I remember hearing Roxanne and all these records on air.
Those dope beats kind of floating in the background on those songs. You know, the thing that I reject the most in music is when someone says, "Stay in your lane." It drives me fucking nuts because it's like, what is a lane for an artist anyway?
It's death.
Yeah.
It's death. I mean, you know, pure music is a kind of dead art form. You know, it's a petri dish. You know, you need constantly to add bacteria, ingredients. You know, other soup. Just add something new and see what happens. Because if you don't, it dies.
You can get the musical penicillin just by accident.
Yeah. You get something that you never would have suspected. And I think this is a case in point. You know, what we created was not expected. It's a very joyful record, but it's based on a friendship.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the flavor of it. There's a lot of sunshine there, but it's based on a genuine respect for each other.
You both have collaborated with many and get lots of tracks sent to you to collaborate, and I'm sure there's lots of your friends that you don't want to collaborate with, but what is the alchemy that has to exist for two guys to say, or two people to say, let's make this together?
I think a mutual respect, a mutual love of each other's music. Like I'm a Sting fan.
Yeah.
And I'm a Sting fan, both of the earlier stuff, and a lot of people.
Did you see his tour with Paul Simon?
Yeah. But the thing is, a lot of people are fascinated with the early Police stuff, and I liked a lot of the stuff he did afterwards because then he started to go really wild. You know, he started doing things that were like, you know, outside the box. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's the freedom you have with him being Sting. Then if he was in the Police, he probably wouldn't be able to go that direction without some sort of
bands tend to restrict you. The idea of themselves is very restrictive. So.
Right, you know, and so I think it starts from just being a fan, and then the rapport has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
The rapport, we gotta get along. In making this record, there was little to no opposition between us, even creatively.
But is that a common occurrence?
I don't think it's a common at all.
Right.
It is freakishly weird.
No, I'm very opinionated, and I'm kind of famously difficult. But
we didn't have that on this though.
But whenever he sang, the energy of the track would come up, and I'd have to raise my game.
Yeah.
And he's so spontaneous. So in a way, I had to be out of my comfort zone. I'm not that spontaneous. I'm much more studied. You know, I'm interested in structure, and the creative process is a private one for me. It's very public with him. He creates a song in public. I said, how do you do that? So he forced me into that situation, and it was frightening, but also, you know, wonderful to be out of your comfort zone. That's where the real
being out of comfort zone was the main thing, you know, because there's things you get about each other, you know, and I was fascinated with his creative process.
Also, you guys probably don't have that many people who feel comfortable pushing you musically. Who's going to tell Sting or Shaggy what to do in a studio?
You know,
anybody has a good idea, I'll listen.
Yeah. You know, I mean,
they'll sell Censor a lot, won't they?
But you know what it is? We didn't have to push each other in that sense.
Okay.
We were so eager to learn. You know what I mean? Like, the instrumentation, when he starts going meticulously on the instrumentation and, you know, the sounds and, you know, I want to put the piano there and I want this. And then he's going into the chord changes and key changes.
Can you imagine chord changes?
And, you know, and bridge and, you know what I mean? Then he'll change the whole tempo, and it's a process to just watch him. You know, you sit there and he's like.
So he brings vibe. I bring structure.
So it's just great.
You know, and it's a fantastic trade-off.
The essence of a good song, right, is hard to nail down. What is a good song? I mean, there's
good song tells a story.
Yeah, okay, and melody and structure and.
Yeah, I think structure tells a story anyway, in an abstract way. You know, you have a musical statement, you repeat that statement, there's a chorus, and then there's a bridge which will lead you to a different viewpoint. You know, that's how the narrative of the song develops. So that for me is a good song. But you can also break the rules. You don't need that structure. It's important to know that it exists, so you can either dispense with it or obey it. But I like the rules.
Yeah, he's more structured like that. Yeah, traditional like that.
Every once when chaos meets order, that's how you get art.
Well, it's magic.
Yeah,
it's create magic. And for me, is create music that you don't just hear, but you feel. Mm-hmm. I want to feel it.
But that's hard to nail down, right? How to get there?
You know, you either have it or you don't, man. And that's what magic is. This is a vibe. This is not. It's a vibe. It's so much thing about it is unexplainable.
Does creativity have a window? You know, I'm fascinated with old lions. I'm fascinated with people great painters in their 70s or 80s, great authors in their 80s, great activists in their 80s and 90s. I wondered if so much is made about youth, and I wonder for you, does the window change?
I think it does. I think you're more aware of what it is you're hunting. But you also realize it's a very elusive beast, and and a hunter has to change his viewpoint the whole time, or change his method to capture it. Because if you think you know how to capture creativity, it will disappear. Right. And I think as you get older, you catch on to that game. When you're young, you catch things by accident. As you get older, there are fewer accidents.
Yeah, it's very calculated. You gotta
right.
And reinvention is a big part of it. you got to reinvent. And I think a lot of people get lost in what is happening now, and then they try to emulate what is happening to a T. You still got to be you.
Yeah.
You know, no matter how you look at it, no matter what Sting does, it's still gonna be Sting. There's that line that he won't cross. You know, you don't want to alienate the fans. You want to do what you do, but you're finding a new way to reinvent it.
Right.
You know what I mean, and make it cool, and so that you could grab on to a younger generation that will buy into it. Because a lot of these younger kids, when they hear a lot of these songs, take for instance somebody covers, like, you know, when they covered "Every Breath You Take," and they're like, "Wow, this is the greatest thing." You know, Puffy created the wickedest joint. You know,
How do you get Sting to write the
yeah,
sing on
but
it?
at the end of the day, it's really. But what I'm saying is, it's they don't know.
Yeah.
So for why are you trying to reinvent to do something what they're doing at the end, when you could be doing what you're doing? Then to them it's just brand new.
And why wouldn't you want to take on that great responsibility of showing somebody something they may not have heard?
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
But how many songs were written for this that didn't make the record?
I think we did about 20 songs
Yeah.
all told, and I think 14 of them are there. There's 6 kind of unfinished, or
No, they're done.
they're pretty much
They're pretty
done.
done.
But,
We just-
I don't know what to do with them.
It's always a hard task to pick.
Yeah.
You know, what is good for this time? We did it in 6 weeks, so okay, you have 20 songs.
Yeah.
Normally when I'm doing, I sometimes have 80, 90 songs.
What?
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
No, I would never do
I've
that.
done. He doesn't. That's not his process.
No.
But I've never made a record. This is my first record that I'm making. I've never made a record.
Like this.
Like, I always had, like, for instance, Hot Shot, when we had Angel, Wasn't Me, Love Me, all these hits. They never gave me a budget to say, go make a record.
Yeah.
You know, I had a song that just jumped out in the chart. I had a bunch of labels trying to sign me, because that's what they do. They don't see the diamond. They see it when it's shiny.
Yeah.
They wait and they bid for it.
Yeah.
I took the highest bidder, and they was like, okay, we need an album. And we need it fast, because this single is hot. You know, so I just compiled a bunch of stuff that I had in my computer and say, here.
Is that how you do it?
Yeah. And so they're just sitting down there. With this situation now, that's why I said there was so much about it that was intriguing and exciting. I'm seeing the process from when it's from inception, and how we, you know, shape the whole album going through, and what the type of records, and how we, you know, everything about current affairs, and how we're gonna, you know, make it work.
I was wondering, where was the philosophy at? Where's your head at? You know, where's your heart at? Where's your stomach at? What are you feeling?
Well, you start with the personal, and then that becomes the political.
Yeah.
And every song on the record begins that way, and then it has an undertone that, you know, of meaning in the political world, or the you know, sociology world. So that's what I'm interested in. I really take seriously the function that music has in society. It's there to get people up in the morning. It's there to make people smile, give people a sense of hope that the world can change. We are in very dangerous, dark, threatening political times, and music has an important role, and both of us take it seriously. Mm-hmm. But the feeling of the album is uplifting. You know, it's not kind of heavy, doom laden, but there is that awareness there that things we value are under threat in a very serious way, and as we do something, they will disappear. We can't assume it's just going to be okay. We can't.
I loved how often you would reference him in the lyrics, because I thought, okay, these guys are really enjoying this process. But the more I listened to it, the more I thought, you guys aren't making a record to make a record. Neither of you need to do that. So was there something burning inside you, something to say, something you wanted to...
There's no point in saying anything unless you have something to say.
But that's not true for most people.
There's already too much noise in the world, you know. You don't want to
we
add
don't
to
want to be
that.
a part of the noise. Yeah. You know, but the good thing about it is that we were both accomplished artists. We've proven everything already, so there was no pressure there. We just wanted to just...
Yeah, you didn't need to get paid off this. Like, you're all right.
Well, it's always nice to get paid.
Nice, but need is different.
But it didn't matter to us. We just wanted to go in there and create music, and that we'd go out here and tour and enjoy, and we wanted to send a message and let our voices be heard and touch on points that were important to society.
We know that, hope and optimism. One is that we expect things will get better, and one of them is we expect things will get better if we get together and do something about it. I'm assuming you're in the latter category. And
we have to. We can't assume that things will get better without us really standing up.
Yeah.
This is like the 1920s and 1930s. Some bad shit's happening.
It's a bit crazy that this conversation even exists in 2018, but if you spend any time traveling around certain parts of the world, it wouldn't be a surprise.
No, but surprising that it would be here, in North America.
Yeah.
That upsets me. I love America. We're both immigrants here. We came here because of the culture that we love. We love the movies. We love the music that came from here. Obviously, it's not a perfect society by any means. It's very, it's a paradox in many ways. But the idea of America, that thing on the Statue of Liberty, I take that seriously.
I believe it.
And that's the essence of America. America is great, but that needs to be defended.
He just said the point. We've seen it everywhere else. We just didn't know it would be here. And it boils back to the same thing that we've been saying. Don't do something about it until it's too late, when it's in your backyard. You know what I'm saying? It is under threat.
Is this the last gasp of like, not you. No, you're talking about the members of the administration who feel this way, the voters that empowered this, the Brexit crew. Is this the last shot from that group of people, or is this a sign in your minds that this is a significant portion of the culture?
I think, and he said it before, I think that we were all asleep. This is happening so that we could wake our asses up. You know what I'm saying? This is why it's happening. Listen, Donald Trump is president. Mm-hmm. He's president, and I kind of like the fact that he's been president in one sense of it, because now he made me realize there are people that were in my life mm-hmm. that I would have left my children's fun in, if I was terminally ill, and I would have trusted them with my family's well-being. And they're sitting there trying to explain to me why Donald Trump is right. And I'm like, I really didn't know you.
That's interesting.
And it has changed the nature of our friendship. And I thank him for that. And let me realize what is it that I am dealing with. Because we tend to get lost in our bubble. And that's one thing he has brought to the table that I could say, hey, now, that said, the war is on.
Yeah. As an outsider as well, being a Canadian, and covering the financial crisis, I thought one of the reasons why, which didn't get enough coverage, is the only reason it really made news is now white people are starting to realize what people of color have been going through for a long time in this country. You spend time in the Deep South, and it has not got better in many instances, and now it's all just kind of come to a head, and art is one way to be a broadcaster, right? Art is one way to do the news, in a way, to connect to people. When you were young, which artist connected you to the world, connected you to philosophy, to art, to that?
Bob Marley.
Yeah.
The spiritual component to his music, a political component, linked to an extraordinary musical talent, and an iconic presence. I knew Bob Marley. I met him a number of occasions. Very regal.
Even that sentence alone is so amazing.
But he was a major influence on me, obviously. But they're few and far between, people like that.
Yeah.
So.
Revolutionary. Burning Spear too.
Yeah.
Burning Spear was one of them that got that whole revolutionary thing going. In some. And there was a lot of reggae guys, in some aspects of it. Jimmy Cliff also, so.
Jimmy Cliff had a monstrous moment, right? Letting everybody know.
Well, he was supposed to be the Bob Marley.
Yeah.
Chris Blackwell had him first. That was the guy that everything was on.
Who, Pino?
No, Jimmy.
Jimmy Cliff.
Oh, yeah.
Jimmy was supposed to be that guy. That's who Chris invested in.
He didn't do badly.
Oh, he did amazing. He was amazing. He was amazing.
Yeah.
But it took another turn. He went another direction, and it's come Bob, and the Wailers.
Well, what happened with Bob Marley was that, rock and roll is a very conservative art form, almost reactionary. So to be revolutionary in rock music is very hard. So what reggae did is it just turned everything upside down, the way the drums were played, the importance of the bass as a bass player. That was really important to me.
Now, when you say revolutionary, you do mean orally,
structurally.
The sound. Yeah, structurally, okay.
The way the music was made was so upside down.
Yeah.
And that was genuinely revolutionary. And so that really got my attention early on. I'd been exposed to Caribbean music as a kid, calypso and blue beat and ska. But when reggae came along, using the tools of rock music, the instrumentation of rock music, and turning around like that really woke me up. And so we gravitated towards making a kind of hybrid of reggae influence with standard rock and roll, and then juxtaposing them together. That became our style. That became our signature, if you like.
You talk about storytelling. The first time I heard Desmond Dekker, I remember thinking, "This is another room."
Desmond Dekker.
Yeah.
Is there alive?
Yeah, that's another room all of a sudden that we hadn't had access to. So it's challenging to be revolutionary rock and roll musically, but it was relatively easy to do it in a pop song verbally. Messages, folk music had kind of been a really big part of that. In this era, where if it's not a 5-second Facebook video that catches your attention, to plant the seeds of revolution intellectually and emotionally, is it a different approach for you to do that now?
I think it's art is really a message that is veiled rather than a political statement or a polemic. You have to veil it somehow, so people have to discover it through being entertained. It's still there, but it shouldn't be so obvious. Mm-hmm. So I think the political messages on this record are just beneath the surface. Just scrape a little way and you'll find it. But our first function is to entertain, is to give people joy, and then inform.
What I got out of it was a lot of emphasis on community. That we're better together than we are divided.
Oh, absolutely.
I think all economics is based on community, and if you take community out of the equation, you're left with a very abstract form that is dead and meaningless to most people. If economics puts you out of a job, and how do you explain that to people? You can't.
Yeah.
Community is the most important part of the equation. So, I studied economics. That's why.
You've done many things in your career, as you have both. Does it take time to figure out how to make that veiled? Because we're in an era where it's really important sometimes just to say what you fucking think.
Well, I think it's a natural thing for an artist to do that, and to speak in metaphor. This is what we do. This is poetic metaphor.
I think there's a lot of people just saying what they think. And they're saying a bunch of shit. Sometimes, I get to get your opinion, babe, but sometimes you just depends on what the fuck you're saying, man. I mean, people just you be on Facebook or Instagram, and I'm like, and you listen to what some of these opinions are. I'm like, how did you earn the right to that opinion? It's crazy when you're out here trying to do something really positive, and there's a guy that's on his couch that does absolutely nothing, but he has a voice to say some shit to your shit, and it's totally just, you're like, what? How did you arrive by this? And I like people that have their voices have their voices to be heard, but say something worthwhile, man. It's I don't know, and it boils down to shock value. There are people in life that if something is going one day, they'll go against the grain just for the shock value.
I think a lot of voters react that way.
Yeah. And you just want to be going. You don't get as much attention going with the crowd, even if it's the right thing to do, but going against it, even if it's the most fucked up thing to do, you're going to go against it, just because of attention. Attention is what everybody craves. This is what social media is about. Because you're looking at a bunch of people who are, they're just insecure. A whole bunch of insecure people. And they're insecure for many reasons. And that is what you talk about how we unveil it. Everything boils down to a cool factor. Create the cool and they follow it. You know, when we started this, there were a lot of people was like, "What the fuck, really?" What? As soon as we won the Grammys and people are like, "Wow, this is great, bro," I was like, "Oh, yo, that shit is odd." And like, dude, you requested it from before. You were like, do you know what I'm saying? Why? Because it became cool now. It became the thing. You know, it's finding that cool factor sometimes that I think will evoke the change.
And make that connection.
And the gateway to cool is from artists. They're the coolest set of people on the face of the earth. They control cool.
And they're, at best, the people that can help you articulate how you feel. Like, I have this idea, this feeling, this whatever, and you put it into words. You know, or there's a chord progression that actually speaks to me on a cellular level, and that's what a good artist would be able to do. Yeah. It's my big challenge is when people say speak your truth, and I'm always like, fuck your truth, speak the truth.
There you go.
Your truth's not interesting.
Well, the thing about truth is it's mutable and plural, you know.
Yeah.
And so how have you evolved then as storytellers?
It's what?
How have you evolved as a storyteller?
I think it's a sort of accident of nature that you have an instrument that tells stories, you know, a voice that can sing a song and tell a story. And then it's just a matter of practice, you know, and if people start listening to your stories and relating to the narratives you tell, then you get better at it. But I think the first thing is to have a kind of signature fingerprint of a voice. This one has it.
Sometimes it's not just a story, it's how it's told. That I think is what defines a great artist.
But that's an accident of nature. Your voice is, you know, you were born with that.
Yeah.
That tells a story.
I agree. It's something that you can't teach. You got to have it.
Right.
You know, it's like I've learned songwriting and storytelling, and figuring out. I remember when we wrote a song called "Strength of a Woman," and I wrote the song. And it took me a whole other week. The chorus was big. She put a smile upon your face. Take you to that place. Strength of a Woman. Massive, you know, big chorus. Took me about another week and a half to find.
That's long time for you, man.
Well, yeah. Well, it's a long time. About a week and a half for me to find the first line because I knew that the first line was what was gonna have to grab you. Mm-hmm. And I fought with it till I found. So amazing how this world was made. I wonder if God is a woman. Boom. There you go. I got it. And it's part of storytelling is grabbing your attention from the minute the song starts. Because we used to have a thing where they did, I don't even remember how to research songs. They would do call-in and research songs. Yeah. So and a listener would come in tired and you have 8 songs to listen and you win tickets to some radio station and going to play these 8 songs. They just play the first
12 seconds.
Yeah. You know, so I always try to make the record where it hits you right in the face because I'm reggae. I'm not going to get a second chance on the shit.
Right.
I mean, and so that was part of my process going right. through is figuring ways out, you know, honey gave me that you got me. It's just right off the bat, that melody got to hit you.
Well, that brings us back to surprise, you know. When I compose a song, I want to surprise somebody within the first 4 or 8 bars. If I'm listening to a song and I'm not surprised within 8 bars, I switch
I'm
it
on
on.
to the next one.
Life's too short, man. Yeah. I need to be surprised. I want to.
You're not even waiting till the chorus anymore.
Nah.
No. I mean, you have to be surprised.
It's got to smack you out the box, bro. Yeah. You know, you got to smack you out the box. And a lot of that was put into how we made it. That's why I said there was not any, you know, we barely disagreed on anything because, you know, once we were doing it, we both agree of how they should be structured and how it, you know what I mean? And there's places that he would have taken me. I was like, wow, that is, oh, I didn't thought of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we were in the ballpark of how we know pop songs are supposed to be. And what, you know, so we made a reggae, a Caribbean flavored album with reggae and all this fusion type of music. Mm-hmm. But they were just great pop songs.
Most of the songs are 3 minutes long.
Well, that's it.
It's the classic.
He loves it. He loves them short.
I love them short.
Yeah, he's like, okay, well, you know.
Succinct,
you know.
get to the point, and get out.
And then let him play it again.
When you're out of your comfort zone on it and you're learning to work together, was there any insecurity about this? Do you ever feel insecure about the stuff you make anymore?
About what we make, or just working together?
No, just about when you're stepping into a studio, you're stepping in behind a microphone, when you're ready to hear yourself.
There's always a level of anxiety and risk taking. Otherwise, there's no point in being on the tightrope. You know, people want the danger of you falling, and so do you. That's what makes the art. So yeah, there's always an anxiety.
You always think that
Doesn't make it not fun.
Yeah, whether or not you still have it or not. You know, and especially when you listen to the climate of where music is, you know. But then you have to really dig deep into yourself and realize that, you know, when I look at it, I say I've survived the odds of this. You know, when I came into Carolina, I was a 1-hit wonder. Then Bombastic, I was a 2-hit wonder. Then in Summertime, I was a 3-hit wonder. Yeah. And That Girl, I was a 4-hit wonder. I'm like, yeah, well, jeez. You know
Wasn't Me became an anthem for people to say in their lives.
Dude, you know, I mean, we've done that so many times, I mean, over and over. It's just become part of people's lives, and it's a soundtrack to their lives. And you have to come back to yourself and be like, okay, this is what I do. You don't want to see me kick a ball. It sucks.
That's the interesting narrative. It wasn't me, you know. It starts off with a kind of questionable morality. But then in the final verse, he twists it around and goes,
But that's the art of storytelling.
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Even when, you know, because I got Hide, that Afro Man song that was big, if you listen to the end of that song, the morality shows up as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a morality tale.
Yeah.
Does the concept of do I still have it, is it connected to what are your goals and what do you want? Because what is it? Because, you know, if you don't make a trap beat now from Atlanta that doesn't sound like Migos or Drake, are you going to get on the radio? If you don't have the Taylor Swift, you know. So the idea of do I still have it, do you feel that?
I get to a point where I'm not where I still have it with my audience, it's where I have it with the gatekeepers. It's two different things. And what you have to figure out is how to connect to your audience. Because your audience, there's a voice out there. See, the millennials, they dominate because we're in a streaming world. But there are fans out there who they need to be heard. Their voices are lost. Because there's people there's an older fan base that once they go on Spotify, they're fucking confused, man. They're like, you know, whatever happened to a fucking CD? I just put it, you know what I mean? They get on there, you know, and just can't figure it out. You know,
but you know, don't you like having access to everything?
I like that about Spotify and all of that you can get, but there is a separation there that they need to catch up. You know what I mean?
Is there value in somebody believing in something? Because if you live in an algorithm world, and I'm fine with the algorithm world. Our radio show is actually just programmed by me and this other dude. We just play whatever we feel like playing, all genres. It's a national show, and we get away with it. But most people don't. What I like is, I don't know if the song is going to work, and I don't really know if the audience is going to connect, but I kind of don't care, because I really like the way this sounds. And context is really, like somebody to champion something is really important.
So you're a curator.
A contextualizer, even more so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an important function in society. We need to trust people who can make the choices for us and say, well, try this.
But there's some people just watch the numbers and be like, okay.
But an algorithm won't do that.
No.
That recognizes patterns.
Right.
The patterns aren't necessarily positive.
Correct.
So.
Right.
And the patterns are in ways to change your behavior or signal a revolution if you can. Who excites you now musically? Who excites you now musically?
Now.
Yeah.
I like Kendrick.
Kendrick's.
Yeah.
I like Kendrick.
3 records in a row.
I like his choices, the musical backgrounds he takes, and the political stance.
What's his name again? Teddy Pictures.
The
I know because I follow him. So God, why am I drawing a blank right now?
It's your age.
Love of the Shape of You song. What's his name?
I forget. I know it though.
So you're drawing a blank too?
Everybody knows.
He's just one of the biggest artists in the world right now.
I know. You know, what was it?
Ed Sheeran.
Right.
Yeah.
I love this album.
Yeah.
I played it back and forth.
That guy comes out of nowhere too, right? That guy surprised a lot of people.
Man, that dude's a good songwriter, man. I like it. Ed Sheeran is the shit. You know what I mean? I listen to that record, and how I fell in love with his album was through my wife because she played it like constantly, back to back, every single.
What are you guys reading now? What are you reading?
I'm reading a book about Greek philosophy and how it was suppressed in the early years of Christianity and how advanced it was, and humanism and democracy and ideas like that, and science, all suppressed by the early church, and then only discovered in the Renaissance, so giving rise to the Renaissance. So it was all Greek thought. It had all been thought of before. We just uncovered it again. So the Dark Ages were dark, and we can't let them get dark again.
Well, if history is in fact cyclical, if it is, does that mean we have another Renaissance coming? Because religion is still controlling a lot of the narrative in schools, especially in this part of the world.
Morning is coming, as I say in the song. Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah, do you believe that? Is that your head
I
or your
have
heart?
to. I mean, that's my strategy, is to be optimistic. It's a better strategy than the other way, because that comes true as well. So let's be optimistic. But we can't just rely on progress being a given. It's not. It's not a given. We can go back.
It's hard fought, isn't it? Progress. What's connecting with you these days?
Nothing as deep as that, but just so you know. That's...
Okay, even if you said 50 Shades of Grey, that'd be fine too.
No, my wife gave me this little book about positive thoughts, and I've been going through them daily, and there are little quotes here and there that I read, and especially in times when you just get that depression, because I think you go through depression mood almost every day at some point, especially in the climate that we're at. And it's just an uplifting, vibe just to go through it page by page.
Are you reflective people?
Yeah.
I think we are.
Yeah.
I mean, not in a kind of, moribund way, but in a good way. I think, I'm 66, so...
That's the thing.
You've lived most of your life already, so at that point, when mortality comes in, you realize that you have to make every day count, and every thought count, and every gesture count. So that's actually an enriching place to be. It doesn't actually diminish you. It actually makes your life richer.
And it affects your choices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah.
87 and I'm still going strong, bro. Watch me.
It's like rigor mortis. Be careful, man. You can't get your leg back if you keep doing that.
Put that thing away.
Is there what comes next for you two?
Well, we're going on tour together.
Yeah.
Tour, yeah.
We're the big bromance of the year, and we're going to... It's going on exhibition. It'll be a very integrated tour in that we won't leave the stage. And so I'll be Shaggy's bass player, he's backing vocalist, and then he will rap, toast, adapt on my songs. And we'll see where it goes. I mean, we both have a musical family that likes to do that, that's adept enough to just morph into whatever's going down. So it'll be interesting, it will be surprising, and we don't really know.
Will you do each other's songs? I asked because when I saw you do the Paul Simon thing, when I think you had stepped up and you did Bridge with him, it was crazy to watch the reaction of the fans, because they couldn't put the two together, right? And oh my God, I'm hearing this voice. But you looked like you really enjoyed the experience of doing other songs.
Paul is one of my teachers, one of my mentors, so to work with him was fantastic. And again, to learn his process. I mean, you talk about detail, I'm nothing compared with Paul. So that was a lovely tour. And then I worked with Peter Gabriel. He and I did this very spontaneous tour together. And now me and Shaggy. So I like to share the load. I think it helps, it's less lonely. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting for audiences to see you adapt what you do to accommodate someone else.
Mm-hmm. It's fun to sing other people's records. Because remember, I'm singing It Wasn't Me over and over.
I'm not singing It Wasn't Me with you, man, because I don't have a role in that song.
Shit. So it's
I'm verse, man.
I'm looking forward to see which one of his songs that I could fuck up.
Yeah. In a good way or a bad way?
In a good way.
In a good way, yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah. So it's going to be some fun.
Russians, man, that's the song to sing. That's the song to sing now.
I think it needs a slight change in the lyric.
Slightly, yeah. But it can be done.
Yeah, we'll figure something out though.
Nice. Thanks for your time, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Nice to
Thank you.
talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Man. Good to see you.